Welcome dear students. Today we are going to study a very important topic in English language. The name of our topic that we are going to discuss today is figures of speech or the poetic devices. They must not be confused with the parts of speech. You know, in parts of speech we classify the different words as per their meaning and as per their use and function. And we say a particular word is noun, pronoun, adjective, adverb, conjunction or something like that. But figures of speech are totally different from the parts of speech. What is exactly a figure of speech? It is the ornamental use of words to enhance the effectiveness of words. For example, when we say Rama is a beautiful girl, we are saying it in an ordinary sense. But when we say Rama is beautiful like a rose, or Rama is as beautiful as a rose, or simply Rama is a rose, we are enhancing the effectiveness of the beauty of Rama. So that is the figurative use. And here we say that we are making use of the figures of speech. So there are many figures of speech in English language. We will discuss some of the important figures of speech which are commonly used in poetry and in prose also. So the first one is simile. Simile is the comparison between two dissimilar things by using the words as, like, such, than, etc. For example, we say he ran like a hare. He is as clever as a crow. Or we say she's a rose. She's beautiful like a rose. So when two dissimilar things are compared to each other by using the words like, as, such, than, etc., we call that figure of speech simile. Then the second one is metaphor. Metaphor too is a comparison between two objects of different nature, two dissimilar things, but we avoid the use of the words like, as, such. We don't use these words in the metaphor. For example, he is the star of his family. The camel is the ship of the desert. In fact, we substitute a word for the noun or pronoun. We say he ran like a hare. It is simile. When we say he is a hare, it is metaphor. When we say he is as clever as a crow, it is a simile. When we say he is a crow, it is a metaphor. So that is the difference between simile and metaphor. We always use the words like, as, such, than in simile, but we never use such words in a metaphor. Then the personification. Person means person. So when we give human traits to inanimate objects, non-living objects and animals, the figure of speech is known as personification. What do? We generally give human traits, give life to an inanimate object or an animal. For example, death lays its icy hands on everyone. Now you know that death has no hands, but we are treating death as if it were a human being. So it is a personification. Then we have let no ambition mock their toil. Ambition is an abstract noun, but we are using it as if it were a human being. So it is known as personification. The next one is alliteration. Alliteration is a repetition of the same consonant, sound or syllable at the beginning of two or more words in a line. It is generally used in poetry. We have willful waste makes woeful want. Now the sound w is repeatedly used in this line. So it is alliteration. Then we have silence surging softly. We are using s sound in all the three words at the beginning of in their beginning. So this is a alliteration. We have there were 10,000 fruit to touch. The T sound is used there. So it is a alliteration, the repetition of the same constant sound. When we repeat a vowel sound at the beginning of a two or more words in a line, that is assonance, that is not alliteration. Here we repeat a constant sound. Then we have hyperbole. Hyper means more. Hyperbole, it is not hyperbole. Hyperbole, it is exaggeration or overstatement, not to be taken literally. When we exaggerate a thing, we call it hyperbole. 10,000 saw I at a glance. These lines have been taken from the famous poem The Daffodils, composed by William Wordsworth, where he feels happy on seeing a large number of daffodils along the bank of a lake, and he says 10,000 saw I at a glance. Now it is not necessary that there were 10,000 daffodils on the bank of the lake, but he calls them 10,000. So it is hyperbole. Then we have she shed an ocean of tears. None can shed tears equal to an ocean. We are simply exaggerating. So this is a hyperbole. The next is oxymoron. Oxymoron means combining two seemingly contradictory elements. That means we juxtapose two words having opposite meanings. He is regularly irregular. This is oxymoron. This is like a living death. Living death. We are juxtaposing death and life. We have deafening silence. We say life is bittersweet. So these are all examples of oxymoron. Then we have paradox. Paradox is a statement that seems to be contradictory. It is outwardly contradictory statement having inner significance, but such a statement has inner significance. Child is the father of man. Now, how can a child be the father of a man? So this is outward, it seems to be contradictory. But what we mean to say is that whatever habits, whatever traits a child has will last throughout his life. Child is the father of man. So this is the example of paradox. There is plenty in poverty. There is plenty in poverty. So this is also a paradox. How can we have plenty in poverty? So its meaning is that in poverty we are quite happy and satisfied. The next is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a figure of speech where sound of words suggests its meaning. For example, we say buzzing, we say grunt, grunt goes the hog. This grunt means sound. Beauty born of murmuring sounds of water. So this is a onomatopoeia. Then we have antithesis. Antithesis, explicit statement of implied contrast. We are contrasting two things, but they have deep meaning. Man proposes, and its contrast is God disposes. To err is a human, to forgive divine. We have united we stand, divided we fall. So such examples are the examples of antithesis. So these are some of the figures of speech that we have discussed, and we will discuss some figures of speech more, some more figures of speech. So you have to understand these figures of speech by doing sufficient practice, because they are of great value, especially while you give the reference to context of a poem. Now our next figure of speech, or we call poetic device or literary device, is metonymy. Metonymy is the use of a linked term to refer to an object or concept. For example, we have the pen is mightier than the sword. What we mean here is writing is more important than sword. The next example is let me give you a hand means let me help you. So we are using a linked term to refer to an object or a thing. The next one is signing the key. It is the representation of the part, representing the whole by a part. Part represents the whole. For example, we have grey hair should be respected. It means we should respect the old people. The next example is many hands have been given employment. Means many people have been given employment. Now there is a great difference between metonymy and signing the key. In metonymy we refer to an object or a concept by a linked term, but in signing the key we represent the whole by a part. For example, grey hair are the part of a person, hands are the part of a person. So in signing the key we necessarily have to refer the whole body by a part. The next is transferred epithet. As the name suggests, epithet means adjective that we give to something or somebody. It is transferred from a living person to a non-living thing. The transfer of an epithet or adjective from a living being to non-living. For example, he lay on a sad pillow. Basically the pillow was not sad. He was sad, but he has transferred his sadness to the pillow. So this is a transferred epithet. It means sad has been transferred from the person, from the pronoun he to the non-living thing pillow. Similarly, I passed a sleepless night. Night was not sleepless. I was sleepless. But I transferred my sleeplessness to the night. So this is an example of transferred epithet. The next is pun. It is a playing with words. When we use a word in a sentence to refer to its two meanings, when it has two meanings in a single sentence, we refer to as such a figure of speech as pun. The leopard changes its spots when it goes from one spot to another. So spot here, this spot refers to the signs on the body of a leopard. This spot means place. So in a single sentence, the word spot has two meaning. So this is an example of pun. The next example is an ambassador is a person who lies abroad to lie. Here lie means to lay, and lie means to tell a lie. So this sentence has a word lie which has been used twice, having two different meanings. So this play of words is known as pun. Next is climax. Climax, as we know, is going from a simple thing to the highest, from simple feeling to highest. So this is successive steps to move to more and more important and impressive level. I laugh, I run, I leap, I sing, I dance for joy. So from laughing, running, leaping, singing, the speaker moves to dancing. So there is a successive movement to the higher level. So this is a climax. The next example is I came, I saw, I conquered. So this is also an example of climax. Anti-climax is the opposite of climax. It is a descent from higher to low level. While the climax is ascent from lower to higher level, anti-climax is descent from higher to lower level. He lost his wife, his daughter, his son, and his dog. So from his wife, daughter, son, we are coming to his dog. So this is the descent from higher to low level. He is coming from higher level to low level. So this is anti-climax. The next one is a euphemism. Euphemism is speaking in gentle terms of some event which seems to be less pleasing, which is not good event. For example, when a person dies, we say he breathed his last. We don't say he died. Or we can say he was gathered to his forefathers. So instead of saying he died, we say he was gathered to his forefathers. So this is an example of euphemism. The next figure of speech that we are going to discuss is inversion or anastrophe. Inversion is the change of usual order of words. Inversion is the noun form of invert. It means we change the order of the words for emphasis. For example, we say, gone are the days when people used to respect the elders. And I have given here two examples. Come I may, but go I must. So the usual order would have been I may come, but I must go. But we are writing here, come I may, but go I must. So this is an example of inversion. The second example is silver and gold I have none. In ordinary language, we would have said I have no silver and gold. But here I am writing silver and gold I have none. So this is an example of inversion. So these are some of the important figures of speech or poetic devices or literary devices that we commonly use in English language. They are used to embellish the language, to add more beauty and emphasis to the language. So we have ordinary use of words and we have figurative use of words, and this is the figurative use of words that we use in these figures of speech. So you have to work hard. You have to work hard and try to get more examples of these figures of speech in order to have a good grasp over figures of speech, as they are very useful while reading poetry and while attempting the this reference to the context in case of poetry and prose.